Welcome to Through the Trauma podcast. My name is Amber Larkins, published photographer, storytelling expert, visual artist, entrepreneur, speaker, and coach. This podcast was born from one question: how do I get inspiring stories of triumph out to the people who need to hear them the most? Come with me, enter my world, where lives are getting changed, heroes are getting developed, and greatness is being achieved. Hello and welcome to Through the Trauma podcast. I am Amber Larkins, your host, and today I have with me a very special guest, Mr. Billy Brown. He is an amazing guy, commercial lender. He owns the Investors Capital Group. He's a real estate investor, entrepreneur, a 2 times best-selling author on Amazon, and founder and CEO of a passion project that he has is very interesting called the Golf Sanctuary. So Billy, thanks so much for coming on with us today. I'm so excited to talk with you.
Yeah, thanks, Amber. It's great to be on with you and share this story, and especially on the podcast. Now, everyone has trauma, and especially if you're an entrepreneur, that we tend to attract more trauma, but out of the trauma, usually triumph happens. So you stick with it long enough.
And this is one of the beautiful things I feel like about entrepreneurship is, this is what attracted me to starting this podcast specifically, was because I was dealing with athletes. And then as I started dabbling into entrepreneurship, I seen that this mindset is very much the same, and that adversity causes strength. And I'm so intrigued by it and love hearing these stories. And I can't wait to get into yours and find out exactly how this kind of transpired. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your background and what has pushed you into doing what you do?
Yeah, so back in the athlete thing, I'm not sure if you're actually going to call us an athlete or not, but I actually used to play professional golf. Not very well. I consider myself a failed professional golfer. But one of my most interesting things is my other background is wrestling. So I grew up in Stillwater, Oklahoma. My dad was very involved in Oklahoma State University wrestling, which used to be the Mecca, unfortunately not anymore, with Penn State, Ohio State, and Iowa back in charge in that world. But back then in the 80s and 90s, I spent every day especially after school, literally in the wrestling room around these amazing athletes that were driven. And it's through the association with wrestling that post-college, I actually got to intern at USA Wrestling in Colorado Springs at the Olympic Training Center. So I actually get to take it up a notch. And I jokingly say, I was the first golfer to ever be at the Olympics in the training center, even though that's not what it's for. I was there for marketing for USA Wrestling. But I was there because I was searching for a way, because back then there's no TOS Performance Institute. There's no way to go train for golf. You just had to borrow stuff from everything else. And especially on the mindset stuff, there's a few books out there, but it was a little, call it weak as far as the books and able to go talk about psychology. So I just immersed myself in this world of the Olympians, and that I was already kind of in through the wrestling. And it's kind of weird because I'm a golfer, but because I grew up around wrestlers, I kind of have more of a wrestler mindset, a little scrappy and a little, I don't know, I can pick a fight every now and then if I need to. So
I have a hard time believing that.
Yeah, I know. I know you guys know me as a nice guy, but now that I'm a girl dad, it comes out every now and then. I kind of bow up, but
that explains it.
I can be scrappy and then a recruit. We'll put it that way. So
yeah.
I've got friends that can finish off the job. I can make a dent and then leave.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about this trauma that kind of happened that pushed you into what you're doing now.
Yeah, it's like you live long enough, there's enough trauma, and it's amazing, especially as I've gone through counseling, as I've been going through coaches and mentors and all that. What is trauma? It's something that is completely rips our reality of what we've created around ourselves. Today, we're recording this on 9/11. Talking about trauma. What our reality was 9/10 was different after 9/11. So now it's back to what is our trauma? And we've always grown up with trauma in one way or the physical, and I'm not just counting all the physical and emotional stuff that's been put on people, but what our expectations are in reality, it happens. But what I'll say is, looking back, like all the things that were bad, that I thought were bad, turned out to be good. And I'll kind of weave this together, because you fast forward, and what I'm doing today at the All Sanctuary, if you guys have already seen, if you've seen, compared to that movie's out a while back, Slumdog Millionaire. I don't know if you remember that, Amber, but it was a kid from India that, like, they showed these segments of his life growing up, and it's like crap things that happened to him. And somehow, some way, he just gets on this game show and ends up winning this thing, because all the questions that were asked of him related back to his life that he experienced, and it was easy for him. And all is like the puzzle pieces. And that's what I'm feeling like right now, is like, oh my gosh, like all this stuff, if we just wait and you're patient long enough and have faith in ourselves and God, that these things come together for our good and for our benefit. And I mean, you can talk about the trauma in life from, as a failed professional golfer, back to my dad was a very good wrestler, and the disappointment that I did not have that wrestling ability. I'm adopted, so like I did not have a wrestler's body. Shocking, I know, but it's golf was what I was drawn into as far as my competitiveness, into just failing and the trauma around the shame of that, and having to move tail between my legs from my hometown to Nashville to start anew, because I couldn't do anything there. But the real thing was, I mean, let's just be honest of what happened in 2020, around the golf sanctuary, around the world. And this whole concept, and back to the Slumdog Millionaire thing, I had this idea in my head for going on, I don't know, probably 9 years. And I could not pencil this thing out. And I finally, in the middle of shoulder surgery, again, another trauma there, like had to go down, get my labrum repaired. I figured it out, of how to go make this thing called the Golf Sanctuary profitable. And it wasn't because of me, it's just because of timing. It's like, now the timing's right. In the middle of an opioid, the only one I took, I was like, oh my God, I got it. And so I wrote it. Well, I didn't write my right hand, on my left hand, like kind of wrote it down there. And this is 2019. And coming out of 2019, I had shoulder surgery. I left my W-2 job to go start out on my own. And then got into a group of people that kind of encouraged me to go think on this thing a little bit more, to the point at which she did a lunch and learn. So I had like 25 people set up for this lunch and learn in early 2020. Fantastic. I mean, we all remember what happened in 2019. Things were going fantastic. I mean, it was just like all going. I had my business career was going on my own enough where I go start this thing as well. So like I had maybe $300,000 to $500,000 in commissions all lined up in the first half of 2020 for my commercial lending. What I created, it was amazing. Smooth sailing, it can be fantastic. I mean, everything was lined up. So in late February of 2019 or 2020, 3 or 4 days before the lunch and learn, driving back from Taziki's with my then wife, daughter in the back seat, got T-boned on her side. Shook me up like unbelievable. She was fine. Then wife was fine. So I lost my car. That next day was the tornado that killed 22 people in East Nashville. 2 days later, I was at lunch and learn. I was supposed to have 25 people to, all excited about this idea called the Golf Sanctuary. 6 people showed up. I was in a rental car, and they're like, what the hell? It's like, we had it anyway. It was like, it was a very somber. It went from excitement to somber. And just, God, I don't know what we needed. Following week, lost our power again through another storm, and had to stay home. There's no daycare, no nothing. I was just crazy. That following week, I was on a podcast because they didn't want to go do anything live for this big real estate conference. It was recorded. And I'm getting text message in the middle of this thing that what I just put out here on this podcast was gone. That all the capital markets shut down, meaning that $300,000 to $500,000 commissions that I had lined up, poof, gone because of COVID and all that. So I went from sky high to now I was like, how am I going to support my family? Like literally, like what the hell is happening in this world? Everyone's panicking. Like you don't know how you're going to eat, clothe, where's you going to take your kids to school? Nothing. Meanwhile, this whole thing of the golf sanctuary is still in my head. And, fortunately, we're still good on good terms with my then wife. And, by the way, we're going through major marital troubles at the time. And, 2020 was just, it shattered it. But fortunately for me, she's very in tune, and she asked me flat out, so what are you going to do? I was like, grabbing my shoulders, like, what are you going to do? And I went, F it. If I'm going down swinging. So we went forward to the golf sanctuary. I retuned my business for the Investors Capital Group. We put out a lot more educational stuff. Still did some blending later that year, but we went from not having a clue, Amber. I'm telling you, like, did not have a clue sometimes how I was going to make, pay my staff. Like we didn't know, like the money burn was there. I mean, fortunately I saved up enough and the money burn was there. Like, I don't know how much it can last out here. I'm trying to raise capital in that market. But I tell you, it's one step at a time. We went through one property who basically asked us everything under the sun. We want to rent this thing. They thought we were buying it. So we told them to go pound sand. And meanwhile, we actually had already did some marketing. This thing was coming out at that location. And we told them pound sand, kind of pulled that marketing back, and then found another property at the end of that year. And still didn't have it actually locked down until late 2020, even though we had like 3 events lined up announcing this thing. So just total faith that I was going to get this lease locked up. And it was scary as hell. And I don't know what made me go do it, but I kept on doing it, knowing like it was going to be good. In the midst of it all, the marriage is falling apart. The finances were burning. The stress was so high. I think, when was that? I was still a little overweight. No, it was before I lost some weight. But my gut was so bad. I think I got down to like 155. I dropped like 25 pounds. And I got COVID in 2021. And I was barely above 150. And I was just like a walking the stick because of the stress. All through it all, though, like all these like little glimmers, like knowing that this was a divine calling, just kept me going. The domain, the golf sanctuary, was already taken. I get an email in like late November of 2020 that thegolfsanctuary.com is up for auction. I blocked off my calendar and whatever that day was. So didn't do anything. I was prepared to spend, like, max out the credit card to get this thing. Sit there all day refreshed, just like staring at this damn computer screen, because like that was the key to this whole brand. I was the only bidder. I got it for $22.
Nice.
That domain, the name, our logo is now trademarked and is in the lexicon of all golf right now. The property we got, thank God we didn't get the other 2. This is back to trauma. It's like, oh my gosh, we got this property. It fell through, even though we did marketing around it because we have to go create the momentum. This property is ideal. It's an absolute unicorn. And it's exactly what we wanted. We're hidden in plain sight. And our landlords are fantastic because they get what we're doing as far as creating community around play. And why play is not powerful, but also profitable. And then you get into the team members. when I first moved to Nashville, I maybe had, I don't know, $100 to my name. I lived with a roommate over in Antioch, and I moved to this place because it was cheap. It's $250 a month to go share this house, and it's next to a golf course. I go back to, back to the apostles. When Jesus died, what they go back to, what they knew was just fishing. So I go back to golf. If I'm around golf, I kind of feel like at home. The head pro of that golf course, this is over 20 years later, is now works for me. When I coached college, I had this, our number one player was like a senior then. And when I had this vision for this business that I knew I could not run, by the way, it's like there's only one person that has this name on it to go run this thing. And it was Michael Shin. And he wasn't available until I think late 2020, where he came to me and goes, all right, I'm done with my other gig here. I can't do this anymore. Let's go do this. And since then, it's been just absolutely wonderful. I mean, he's elevated this thing 1,000-fold beyond what I could think of. I mean, it's so cool. And because of that, the people that we're attracting in our lives and attracting in this business is absolutely phenomenal. And I tell you all that is because that shit that went, sorry, hopefully edit that out. All the,
Okay.
the bad stuff, we're athletes here, right? It's like all that stuff that we went through that is trying to take us down is actually for our good. And the stress we have, and it's, stress is good. It's how you get stronger. Like you stress your muscles, you stress your brain, like how you persevere. But all that stuff was for my favor and for our favor. Because now the people that are in our lives is amazing. This thing that was my calling, and it took time, to the point at which I sat back one day and I went, this is amazing. This is probably like a year ago. And I started talking about this thing called alignment, and it started coming to the point of and not then. But I started thinking about and I'll get to that point in a second. We have these things in our lives. We silo them, right? We have our family. We have our fitness. We have our recreation. We have our businesses. We have our investments. All these things are siloed, and we're trying to spend time in each one of these things. And we're sitting here deciding which one I want to spend my time in right now. And that creates a lot of anxiety, FOMO, guilt. Because if I'm spending time on my business, I'm not spending time on my kids. I'm spending time on my kids, I'm spending my business or my fitness. Like none of us, all of us have 24 hours. And you get older, it's like our energy goes down. So something gets sacrificed. When I looked at this and actually saw what had been created, I saw instead of this, where everything lined up. We're in one place, like all that was there. And the freedom to just go live, and not only for me, but also our members. Where it's like the family's there, the recreation is there, the fitness is there, the health is there because of the people that are in there. We got executive chef that's world class, so your food is going to be met, your community is going to be met. I was like, holy crap. That is beyond like you can think, comprehend. Like all that just happened. Not saying in spite of me, but for me and for others.
It's like something was working through you to bring this to fruition. And just to clarify for those, because I wasn't clear what the Gulf Sanctuary was. I went on your website and I looked at everything. This is an amazing thing, and there's nothing else like it anywhere, right? It's like virtual golf. Is that correct? Okay. Yeah. So
think of it, and we'll explain it later. People can go to the website, thegolfsanctuary.com, and kind of look at it. But until you step foot in there, the best way to describe it is a private high-end luxury country club meets Soho House meets WeWork.
Yeah, it's a place where people can go. They can practice up their golf virtually, but then they can also network. They can have good food. They can bring their family. Is it similar at all to Top Golf, but like in a virtual setting? No, way different.
No,
Top Golf is more of a bar. Different. Is this right?
Top Golf's more of a bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's hard to wrap your mind around because there's nothing else like it. And I'm going to actually get to go visit tomorrow, right?
Yeah. You get to you are going to get tomorrow.
Yeah. But it's a very interesting concept, and the thing that he's created is very creative. But I love the way that you have explained these ups and downs of this coming into fruition, this happening. because it's not been an easy thing. And I think a lot of times we look at people that have succeeded at random things and we say we see the end product. We don't see all the ups and downs and turmoil and things that they've gone through to make that thing happen. And so you explaining that is very insightful, and um, I appreciate you kind of opening up about the stuff that happened going into creating this and the adversity that you were faced with, yet you continue to persevere.
What kept me going was, I mean, it was a couple of things. Obviously, having a daughter, you kind of have to. But knowing history, you know, your little bit of history about yourself, like some of the greatest companies were created in the Great Depression because when others were treated, there's those that had the courage to go forward and were able to take advantage of everything happening. I knew that. But in the midst of everything, it's the dynamic of, you know, living in a household in the middle of a pandemic in a broken relationship, but also that's supportive yet fractured and painful. The trauma there, and also support is so weird. You know, it was so weird to be able to go through all that in that relationship. But you know, coming out of it, you're like, we all look back and go, how the hell did we make it through that? How the hell did we make it through hell? I mean, it was only 3 years ago all this was happening, 3.5 years ago. I guess the encouragement here I give somebody listening is like 3.5 years. That's what we're talking about here. So if whatever trauma you're going through right now, know it's for your good, but you fast forward 3.5 years, this is amazing. I mean, like what can happen? And asking yourselves, how is God using this to go bless you and others? I mean, there's multiple stories in the Bible you can go like read into of the pain and suffering that was allowed to happen between the disciples, between even Mary and Joseph, what they went through. I mean, their life is hell, you know, and what came out of that for not only your glory, but also God's glory.
Yeah, absolutely.
That blesses
And
others.
there's something that happens with adversity that strengthens us. And I look at it coming out of the fitness industry. I look at it like, you know, anytime that you want a muscle to build, you want to break it down. You have to cause trauma to that muscle so that
Yep.
it can rebuild. And it's very similar. You can compare fitness so much to life, but it's so true. The more that you want to grow and be used by God, it's like the more that He has to break you and show you what you're capable of and rebuild you into that person. And it's really beautiful when you start to hear stories of this happening. It's like that's a that's a beautiful thing. So I want to ask you this. When did you discover like your purpose? Kind of knowing that golf was like the place that you needed to invest your time, energy, and efforts.
So, man, that's that. We can go deep on this one. There's a lot of guilt when you have a gift, and I'd say it wasn't supported, but it was not supported greatly. I knew golf was something I always wanted to play the rest of my life, but I felt guilty because I wanted to go do it, and I was good at it, and it felt like it's a game. Well, everyone else in the family's doing businesses and everything else is like, well, you're just playing golf. So that actually kind of hindered me because that mindset of like, yeah, it's not really, you know, something you hang your hat on, and you're probably not going to go make it. So don't give it a whole lot of chance and just kind of go do something else. So that dynamic, that conflict in there. But I mean, I've since I picked up a club when I was like 4 years old, I love the game. I mean, it's in my soul. Even past, even like I brought that in my marriage too. Like, and that was very much like, hey, it's my passion. It started to become frowned upon. So, whole thing like golf guilt. You know, I went from playing 3 days a week to 3 times a month to 3 times a year because it's kind of frowned upon. Even though it's kind of allowed, it wasn't. It was kind of frowned upon. So, well, you know, you got a family now, so you need to go sacrifice that thing that brings you joy and provides you community and friendship. And go, you know, if you slaved away all day, comes, let's say, slave away at home, but, you know, put on your big boy pants and stay here. So when those passions are taken away from you, you know, depression happens. So saying all this to say, like, it's always been there, but accepting it is what has come out of 2020 and all that, because life's too short. And that's what we all learn is like, what am I living this for? It's like, I'm not one of those guys that is going to wait till I'm 65 and then go play golf again and you're like retire. That's not who I am. It's like, I'm designed for freedom, especially 2020, like when freedom's taken away from us. That's when you had to bow up, back to the wrestler thing. Like it's, we're bowing up here. The whole line's not sheep thing. Like we're standing up. I witnessed my dad start a business, worked 80, 90, 100 hours a week. It's very successful, traveled a lot, but only for business. We never took a vacation, true vacation. Everything's work related. Now I got to go do some cool stuff. My mom got to do some cool stuff. All the wife stuff was never a vacation. He would not do a vacation because he had a military background. He had a business background. Delayed gratification was his religion. And that delayed gratification killed him. Late 80s, tax reform act took him down. It's like the same month that he bought out his business partners, was my grandpa and uncle. He could not recover from that. He tried. In the 90s, he lost his business, started again, gained a lot of weight. When I moved to Nashville in 2003, about 6 months, a year later, he had a heart attack. And then ended up getting cancer in 2010 and dying about 6 months after my marriage. So my wedding. He never took a vacation, never took a trip. The only trips he took post like 1990s was to MD Anderson. And I started seeing that myself in 2019 when my health started deteriorating. I grew up in fitness. I grew up in health, a professional athlete, all that. I was like, there's a point at which I won't share here, like what happened. And it was like, that was it. And I had to take control of it. And that led to everything else. But the passion there came out. It's like, holy crap, this is awful. Like, this is not life. Like, I'm miserable. I had to accept that I was miserable in everything I was doing, who I was with, in the relationship. I'm bringing down everyone else. It's like, what is it that brings me joy? What is it I'm good at? What is it that I'm truly passionate about? And just stepping into that and just saying, F it. I don't care what else thinks. And that decision obviously affected everyone else. But now I'm healthier. We got all sanctuaries out. The Investors Capital Group is growing. I'd say even the relationship with my daughter's mom is much better than it was in the marriage. And I'm around and present for my daughter. A lot of this trauma we have to go through. We have to realize it's for our good. The strengthening, the breaking down, the adversity. We got to be battle tested. Mm-hmm. The whole analogy about these ships that are safe in the harbor aren't any good. Mm-hmm. It's not what they're designed for. Like we're designed to do hard things. We're designed to encounter hard things and overcome. Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of it.
What would you say to someone who was kind of on the fence of following their heart and their goals, and their, not just their goals, but like doing something with their life that they are truly passionate about?
I mean, what I'm going to say, do it. I mean, life's too short. I mean, really, like God gave you that flame. God gave that to you. Whatever you think, don't diminish it. And like, I cannot throw rocks in this glass house. Like, I'm going through a lot of counseling from stuff that I had to box up. And, we've worked through a lot of stuff. But there's still like that, everyone's got the baggage of what it is, like not diminishing your light. Let it shine and let it shine boldly. And sometimes you need someone to come along with you and go point to those things. Like, that's awesome. You need to talk about that. That is awesome. That sucked, but it's awesome you got through that. Write that down. For people that are especially going through this in the middle of it, I mean, there's a whole analogy there when it comes to soldiers. It's like in the middle of battle, you don't know who's winning, but you keep fighting with the faith to know that you will win. And at the other side of it is victory. And I will tell people right now, it's like, it's difficult, but it's not supposed to be easy. Those that are chosen for this adversity are blessed.
And there's just something, I was listening to a webinar earlier this morning, in this webinar, I'm not huge on basketball. My son plays basketball. I like to
Yeah.
watch his games. I'm not huge on basketball as a
Yeah.
sport. In this webinar, he was talking about how Steph Curry is like the best shooter. And I guess he was asked, like, why are you the best shooter? And they said his answer was, because I don't quit shooting. Like, I always
Mhm.
believe I'm going to make the shot. So I don't quit shooting. So, where many athletes will, they shoot a few shots and they're like, oh, I'm not doing well. So then they get scared and they don't shoot the shot anymore. But
Mhm.
this guy keeps shooting. He's believing that he's going to make the shot every single time, even when he doesn't make it. There is something very powerful, I feel like, that comes in with this mentality of I'm not going to give up. I'm going to continue on this path, not knowing, because sometimes it's just completely by faith. We don't know what's going to happen. We have no idea, but it's completely moving by faith. But I can truly attest to this. If you are not doing something that you feel completely aligned with, that thing that is on your heart to do, I don't think you can fully be fulfilled in life. I think you're going to
No.
miss out on something. I'm a firm believer in following your heart and doing what you believe is your thing to do. And sometimes that takes time and attention and intentionality to really figure out what is the thing that I'm put here on this earth to do. But I think that once you find that thing, run towards it with everything you have. What is your advice to someone who maybe they don't know? They're like, I'm not really sure what my purpose is.
Yeah, thinking about that question, Amber. There's no way you could have told me 10 years ago that I was going to be doing this. That does not
Mm-hmm.
make sense. A lot of people that are successful right now, there's no way you can go put a vision board up like, oh, I'm going to go do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a calling. You're just telling, all you're looking at is that next logical step. So there's in kind of reverse end of that of you still need the vision board of what your life wants to look like. I mean, I'm very much into vision boards. I'm very much into that. The daily affirmations and the letter to yourselves. We'll get into the whole different podcast, but I would say there's a couple things you need to go do. Is like one is those closest to you need to speak life into you, and just ask them flat out. It's like, what am I good at? And just ask, let them just say that. Like, what am I really truly good at? What are my gifts? And then you got to ask yourself, like, what am I passionate about? And those are things like where you go into where do you spend your recreation, where you spend your most time that brings you joy and you're refreshed coming out of it. And this is back to the whole concept of and not then. So most of us work, that delayed gratification, which is dumb. We'll work our asses off, kill ourselves in a job or something else in the name of discipline to go then do something, whether it's a vacation, or it's then I'll have a kid, or then I'll have a whatever, then I'll have a career, then I'll retire. But back to the passion thing, say, what if, and this is where I'm a living proof, what if there's and? What if you can do both? Live passionately through things you're passionate about, that in the things that bring you joy with the people that you love the most, love doing life with. That's also financially rewarding. And that's the alignment that you're looking for. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, God, it's taken me, I'm not going to say how old I am, but I've got, I guess, gray hairs here. So it's taken a long time. But all you're looking for is that next step. But if you keep asking yourself and the universe that, it's like, how can they do the things that I love with the people that I love and love me and make it financially rewarding? That's life, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of then. Now, it's going to be still hard, but it's fun hard. It's challenging. It's not life sucking. So, I mean, I'd start with that and just those questions yourself and get that counsel around you. Get in a room full of bigger thinkers and start listening, absorbing, and learning. And then in books, I mean, like I love reading books, but it's the people. Like, get around the people that are doing the things that you want to go do and just listen. And you may have to pay for that. And that's fine. But it can speed up your success by decades. And sometimes, and I've experienced this with investing, you're really only 2 moves away from freedom. I mean, that's all it is. I mean, it's exponential. Most people think it's like lateral and like small steps. Like, no, it's usually 2 moves and then you're free. Not that far away. But the first thing is to decide that you can actually go do it. And most people don't feel like they don't have the strength. And that can be just getting away and getting out of places that are sucking life out of them, whether it's a relationship, a job, or whatever, and just having the faith to go, you know what, my life is worth more than this. And to be able to trust your hustle and trust your tribe, that no matter what happens, you're going to succeed, and actually trust God that it's going to be okay. To value your life enough to take it back. It's the most difficult decision.
I think it starts with small decisions. You make small decisions to make a difference. So sometimes if someone's like way on, I know when I first started on my journey of self-growth, it started with simple decisions to choose. Instead of watching television, I'm going to go read a book. Instead of being around, I started looking at, you've heard the 5 people you're around the most that's who's going to influence you the most. And it's like, who are those 5 people? And I started making decisions about who I wanted those 5 people to be and who I didn't want those 5 people to be.
Intentionality.
Yeah, being very intentional. So I think, everything you said is like right on. And I think if someone's just getting started in this, just starting to make those very first small decisions, how can you be better every day than you were yesterday? Things don't happen overnight. They don't change in a split second. It starts by making decisions to be better every single day. I think that's it's a magnificent thing when you start to look at it over the long haul.
And I was thinking about this way back in the gym this morning about thinking about this podcast and like where my life has come. It's still even back to processing my own healing is the beliefs. Let's start with the beliefs. And I should read about this my article today. It's like, in order to change your beliefs, you got to change your information. Beliefs determine our decisions. Decisions determine our actions, and our actions determine the results. So it goes back to that seed thing of changing the information, changing your beliefs. Those are like the small things, but the big things, back to your input. You're changing your input by not watching TV or looking at you're reading books, getting around the higher level thinking people. That led to where you're at. Small, but it's almost as if you're drafting where before you're fighting. And that's why I feel like with the golf sanctuary and life right now, is like, I got myself into this and now I'm drafting and now I'm just kind of adjusting sails. I'm not really fighting. So sometimes I feel like I'm fighting, pushing on air and all that with the capillaries, all that, but I'm just waiting patiently. But now I'm just adjusting sails. And I think that's what the athlete in us. And there's this great book out there called Willpower Doesn't Work. And I don't know if you read that, Amber, but you need to.
I haven't.
You will love that book. As an athlete, you will love that book. You're always trying to get in a room full of stronger people, more mentally tough, better than you, to kick your ass. And that's the wrestler in me, is like, cool, I'm winning now, so I'm going to find a different room to get my ass kicked.
Right.
The golfer in me is like, that's what we want to go do. It's like, okay, cool, I've got this group now. You keep on, and I call it a drafting. I always somehow got myself in this room, and now the bad side of that is there's also the imposter syndrome, because every room you walk into, you're always the dumbest person in there. So that's the trade-off. But that just that movement there, and all of a sudden you start drafting off that success, and you look up, you're going, wait a minute, I'm getting invited on podcasts with these really cool people. Like, I'm getting invited to go speak. I'm getting invited to be on panels. I'm getting invited, like, I'm raising people to giving me money to go with this passion project. This is mind blowing. 3.5 years ago, it was just, trying not to panic and stay safe. I mean, we know what the hell is going on. That was only 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
So a lot can change people. Just take that one step.
Yeah. So, what is the future of the golf sanctuary?
I don't know.
What is your
I mean, I
ambitions
know.
with it? What do you
Well,
hope
and
to
that's the
see
cool thing.
in 5 years from now?
Yeah. So that's a great question because we just talked about, you know, the faithfulness of stepping into this and just like letting this thing go. And I'm blessed enough to be the one kind of guiding the ship. The vision that's laid on my heart, and it may happen, it may not. There's this term out there that Dr. Steve Turley talks about called parallel polys, and it came out of the fall of the Czech Republic, where follow me here, guys. Sorry, it's like history nerd over here. Where the political system was so corrupt, they went underground to go create their own alternative political system. I'm not saying I'm not gonna put my tinfoil hat on here, but what I was looking for was a way to go speed things up. Basically, an alternative universe where it's, for me, everything is here that I need to go live, work, and play, and it's self-sustaining. So from obviously the golf, anytime I want to go play golf, indoors or outdoors, it's nice. Access to all the private clubs, to competitions. This is like, the personal stuff. To now we have a great access to incredible food, incredible drinks. Even though I don't really drink much alcohol, we have that at our disposal. To the future of this, of what if we tied in exclusive vacations, like stuff you can like fathom, we have access to because of our members and our access to exclusive entertainment events. We're in Nashville. I mean, how cool is this to have like multiple locations, and between Atlanta and Charlotte and New York City and London or whatever, you have this giant global golf community that are full of global business leaders that all come together as this language of golf. And then beyond that, just kind of like thinking bigger. Like all these people that are in my club are accredited investors and high net worth business leaders, family offices. They have access to all the money we need to go do more of these or anything we want to help charities, whatever. To even beyond that, to, well, you know what? I'm really tired of commercial aviation. It's like, what if we get our own plane? And part of our membership of for being a member of the Golf Sanctuary is you have access to our private jet. It's like, you don't have to pay whatever it is, like millions of dollars to go buy your own. We bought that, and then you just use ours. How cool would that be? Mm-hmm. To even now into the medical world. It's like, why will we have to go through the gauntlet of insurance to go to seek help for ourselves and our family? Why don't we have our own private doctors? It's like, we can go do that. I mean, they're tired of working that bureaucratic, octopus, whatever you want to call it. Those are just the things I'm thinking of, like right now. And like how do we grow this into a true community, into a true global community where everything you need is there? Heck, even
happening.
into like,
it's happening all over the world. Like things like this, when you look at community places like hotels that are building a community environment, or it's happening in many different industries. So I don't think that's far-fetched, but very interesting nonetheless.
Yeah. Well, just being selfish. Like, I'm a very simple guy. But I'm also kind of cheap at times. So like, I want all access to all this stuff and I have to pay for it. So,
yeah.
It's like that, anyway, but, so we have, that's kind of the vision of this whole thing, but to have a global private golf community. Mm-hmm. And imagine being able to be connected to the who's who of the world just because you're a member of the Golf Sanctuary, and you pick up the phone because you've got their phone number. And hey, I want to be in New York City, Mr. Chairman, and I know you're a member of whatever private club up there. Let's go play some golf. And they say yes because you're part of the community. Whereas before they had no idea. And this happens all the time in golf. Mm-hmm. So why not?
Yeah. It's similar to like a fraternity. I was explaining to my kids the other day. We're driving through our college town here in where I'm at, and there's like fraternity houses. My
Mm.
11-year-old, he's like, "What is a fraternity? What is a
Yeah.
fraternity?" And I'm like, "Well," and I explained to him, but it's so true. It's like your net worth is your network.
Yep.
Is that how they say it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So sometimes just getting in the environment, which goes back to what we were saying about the 5 people that you're around the most,
Mm.
when you're in that environment around people that are doing big things and big thinkers, which I love that you said that, because for me, when I first got into entrepreneurship, one of the first things I did is got into a mastermind. I really was the dumbest person in the room. I didn't know
I
anything
don't believe
about
that.
entrepreneurship. I really was. And I look back and I think, man, I spent a lot of money in this mastermind, but what is my biggest takeaway from that entire mastermind was that I was around people that thought way bigger than me. So
Mm.
things that it opened my mind to things that I would have never thought of. And
Mm.
what you just described with the golf sanctuary, that's huge. But it's like,
Mm.
you have to be able to open your mind to like what would you do in this life if money was no cap, like there was no cap on the money? What would you do in this life? And when you start asking yourself questions like this, you start to open your mind to like the realm of possible. What's possible? What you thought was impossible, but it's possible. So I love that you're doing this and you're living this.
Mm.
What an inspiration that is to other people who's looking at this thing and to see that you've created something out of its true creativity at its finest and made something that is now you have this huge vision for, and it's just an amazing thing even in the midst of adversity and trauma and overcoming, like you're the pinnacle of that. So it's an amazing thing to see.
Well, and I equate it to this. We're obviously in Nashville, whole songwriter thing, and I'm not a musician, by the way, but I hang around musicians. So, when we've all heard that song, they're like, it resonates with you. Is like, it resonates at a different level of, I've heard that before. It's the first time I've heard it. And it bothers you because you're going, I know I've heard that before, but yet it's the first time it just came out. Like literally, people, it's almost like a deja vu moment. And they come out, find out, listen to the artist. They're like, that song was in the universe and I got chosen to birth it. And that's the way I feel with the Golf Sanctuary. It's like, this song is in the universe and I got chosen to go birth it. And I just had the faith and, I don't know, ignorance, a little stubbornness to go do it and to step into that faithfulness and go, all right, we're going to go do it. And I'm okay with failing because I've lived through the trauma. It's like what's the worst can happen? Like, hell, at one point in my life, it was 2008, I had an ex-girlfriend's mom give me $500 because I couldn't make rent. And I still have that letter. I was like, what's the worst going to happen? I've lived through all this. Like, I've lived broke. Who cares? So that's, again, part of the good thing about trauma is like, it doesn't scare you to fail.
Mhm.
So it should inspire you to go succeed because what if? Absolutely, what if?
Yeah. And if you look at it, going back to the fitness thing, if you look at it like this, the reason you go into the gym to lift weights is to fail. You try to go to failure every single time. So what if we took that same mindset into business? We go in to
Mm-hmm.
fail. Like, I'm just going to push until I fail, and then next time I'm going to be stronger. Like, it's an amazing thing when you look at it. You kind of shift perspectives of it a little bit.
Yeah, fail. I use this all the time. Fail faster, often.
Yep,
That's
I
all it
love
is.
it.
Like, it was all. We're trying to fail as many times as possible, and that's what we did with the Golf Sanctuary. Like, we failed quickly and often. Like, we didn't wait on our mistakes to go change. Like, we use those mistakes to go, that didn't work, that didn't work, that didn't work. We have 10,000 ways this thing does not work, and that's why we're going to succeed. Is because no one is going to pay that price between their ego and sometimes there's their money to go. We know how it doesn't work, and because of
Yeah,
that, we know how it's going to work. And
absolutely.
good luck copying it. So
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. But again, back to people like going through this, like, and I hope somebody is listening to this that's just absolutely like sobbing right now in life, because I've been there and just not knowing what to go do in that battle. And I want to give them encouragement, hope, going, get up, go for a walk, say a prayer, and just ask God, what is the next step? That's all you need to ask. And then take it. Do the exact same thing the next day. Just create that momentum. Back to the fitness thing. I coach. My background is also personal training. Doesn't look like it, but it's like. But I knew it's like when I got somebody new that didn't know, they get overwhelmed because I see people like you, I see people like me going, "How did you get there?" And it's like, anytime I go through a period of I've lost my way, all I got to go do is like start recreating the process that got me there, just smaller steps. So the first thing I tell people is like, wake up early, get up, do a push-up, go back to bed. Next day, get up, do 2 push-ups, go back to bed. Third day, you're probably not going back to bed, but do 3 push-ups. And all you're trying to do is incremental change, that 1% thing. And eventually you're going to get to the gym. Like by the 5th day, get to the gym, do 5 push-ups, come back home. I can do that. Cool. That's easy. And then you start getting to that world of looking around you going, oh my gosh, I see people that are doing the same thing I'm doing. I can go do that. And you get a consistency, and then it just draws you. You start drawing it, and it starts pushing you as well. So it's this, you're into that magical thing where people, like the universe is working in your favor, and the people are working in your favor, and that energy that's around you, that you're out of that bad habits people into the good habits people. Yeah. And just by being around them, you change because they're changing. And that's so cool. That's the cool part. Same thing in life. Just make that, again, get up, go for a walk, say a prayer, take the next step.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know that probably is your closing thoughts, but do you have any other further closing thoughts or comments or advice that you would give to the audience or anyone listening?
Man, that's probably going to be it right there as far as the download of inspiration. But the prayer I prayed in 2008, and this is a little bit in the book. I was so down. It's like, I said prayer. I said, God, give me the strength to have strength. Give me the faith to have faith. Give me the courage to have courage. Give me the steps. And that's all I could go do because I was so beat down and nothing. I mean, literally nothing. I had no clue. I was a lost little boy. I was an adult. And slowly, you got to get in the fight. It's okay. You gotta get in the battle. But you know what? Eventually, people start battling for you. They start helping you. When they see that you've come through the battle and you're putting the work in, they start coming to battle for you. And that's when you know that you're doing good. And the other thing I'd say is, this goes back to a little bit of the same thought, and I'll leave it on this, Amber, is you cannot keep score in the middle of this. What you can do is you can look to see who shows up in your life, who you're attracting in your life, and who you're attracting that want to come help you. That's when you know good things are happening. Just little by little, folks, little by little. And it's okay. It's okay to bleed. It's okay to have broken bones. It's okay to battle. But it's going to happen. Yeah. Have faith.
I love it. That's great advice. I thank you so much for just being open and vulnerable and very authentic and just sharing with us and my audience. And I'm looking forward to coming to see the Golf Sanctuary. And I'm looking forward also to seeing what's going to happen in the future with this awesome endeavor. So thank you so much, Billy. I really appreciate everything. And thank you for sharing so much. And I'll be anxious to see you in the near future, what all happens going forward.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted. Thank you so much, Amber. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Through the Trauma podcast. If you have found value in this episode or believe in the mission behind what we are doing, please subscribe so that you never miss any future episodes. Also, be sure to check out our transformation project at transformationthroughtraumaproject.com, where we help inspirational stories get heard on a larger scale through multiple platforms. If you know someone who can benefit from this episode, please share it with them. Until next time.